There we go. We are live.
What happened to Skinner?
Skinner is gone. Skinner's plane went down.
Oh, man.
77.
Aerosmith also almost went down. I didn't know that story. That's a pretty cool story, though.
Yeah, they almost had the plane that Skinner did, but they thought it was subpar.
No, they thought the pilots were subpar, and then Skinner, that's what ended up killing them. They didn't put gas in or something.
Because they thought, hey, if it's our time, or at least Ronnie did, the lead singer, according to the rest of the band, said, hey, if it's our time, it's our time. Let's get it.
Does he really mean that after the fact? If he could do it again?
I guarantee you, when the plane was going down, he wasn't like, well, this is it, guys, we're going.
I guarantee you.
He was freaked the fuck out.
Yeah.
I had a dream last night, actually, that I was in a plane and I went down. I survived the plane crash, but then I ended up in a sticky situation with, like, cannibals and shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you have weird dreams?
When they take fucking melatonin or Ambien, I have a weird
melatonin makes me have weird dreams.
Yeah.
You know what I did one time? I started writing down my dreams, and when I started writing them down, I can actually take some of the stuff I wrote down and remember my dreams from years ago.
Oh, wow.
If you write it down as soon as you stop, here's the problem. You start dreaming more, and you don't get any rest because it's just dream.
You're active the whole time.
It's crazy stuff, too. You remember it all. You start remembering more. The reason I thought about doing it at first was, have you ever done lucid dreaming? Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, I have.
I've done that a couple of times. It's really cool.
You're able to control your dream?
You can control the dream. It's really crazy.
Wow.
It isn't... I've only had segments. It was like a 5-minute thing. And I remember being in the dream, being like, oh, wow. like making stuff happen. And it felt like I was there.
Yeah.
And the first time I had it, I don't think I really recognized what it was. But the second time, I intentionally tried to make myself do it. And one of the techniques is throughout the day, you sort of try to do something. Like put your hand through your arm that can't happen in reality, but it could in a dream. And that'll tell you if you're in the dream or not. So then all of a sudden you'll push through and you're like, oh, I'm in the dream now. Because your brain can't distinguish the two. It's an interesting thing to do.
Wow.
I haven't really chased it down, but...
Whenever I considered that sort of thing, it was always like, well, I can make myself fuck, and I'll be like having sex.
Like girls and stuff?
Coming and stuff. But be careful what you wish for, because I didn't quite achieve lucid dreaming. But for a while there, as a teen, I was jizzing every single night of the week.
That's a teen thing, though, man.
Waking up with wet sheets. Some people, you'll ask them, they've never had a wet dream before.
I had one in basic training.
Wow.
And
well, you were pent up?
It was like 4 weeks in, and just woke up, and I'm like, oh my God, that was the best sex ever. It was like, and I told another guy about it. He's like, I know, same thing happened to me. It was awesome. Never had that happen before.
Wow.
And
was this the case for you, though? As soon as you jizz in the dream, you jizz in real life?
Yeah,
and you
that's
wake
exactly what I woke up, and I had like wet sheets, and I'm like, oh my God. It felt real. The sex in the dream felt real. Everything felt real in the dream. That's why I was like, man, that was amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, but then you wake up with the chore to do. You know?
It's like, now I got to clean myself up.
I know. That's what I hated.
It's only happened to me like twice. But that was just pent up for, so long. I guess it has to expel itself. Yeah. I don't know physiologically how that works. So our second recording of the podcast, because we forgot to hit record the first time.
We were about 40 minutes in, realized I'd never hit record on the microphone.
That's all right. I mean, I don't think this one was recording either. So
we had a couple cameras that did record. Maybe that footage will see the light of day at some point.
I think it's cool, though. We'll good. We'll change it up a little bit.
Yeah, so we're actually going to start this episode with a story.
Oh, okay. So this is a small story. Remember the other day when you borrowed some condoms from me because you said Nafila was on her period? Mm-hmm. So they were the lambskin ones. They were in that box. In my drawer, I have all those like oils and stuff, and then I have like some lambskins. I have another box of like latex ones in the closet. It's just full.
Wow.
And so Sydney walks in last night, and she says, "Have you been having sex?" And I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, "There's only 6 condoms in the box." And I go, the funny thing is, when I did that, I knew that was going to happen. And I told her, I said, you know what? I knew that was going to happen. I knew exactly when I gave those to him, and I left them there just to test you. And sure enough, it did. It happened.
His long-term girlfriend went through his box of sexual items,
yeah.
Realized that there was 2.
That means she counted it before. And she goes, well, I was just in there, because I told her to go in there, because there was some chapstick she was looking for, and I have this lip balm, so I told her to go in there. So she was in there, and she's like, well, I was already in there. I go, yeah, but you had to go in before and count them. And remember that.
She counted exactly that there had been 8 condoms prior.
They've been in there forever, 8.
Now there's only 2 condoms. Now there's only 2 condoms less. Yeah. That's hilarious.
I got mad at her instead of like, I didn't explain myself at all. I just got mad.
Yeah. Well, I still have the 2 unused.
I started to text you, and she's like, "What are you texting Fernando?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." And I don't think I ever hit send, but I was texting you to tell you the story.
Yeah, he let me borrow a couple of lambskin condoms, which I've never used, but you have. And
did you use them with her?
No, I didn't. They're still sealed up. But apparently they're
amazing.
The best.
Yeah.
As far as condoms go.
The thing is, they don't protect as well against STDs.
STDs, yeah.
But pregnancy they do. But if you have to, they're as close to real as you're gonna get. They're expensive though. They're like $3 to $5 each.
Wow.
But I mean, you're having sex. What do you care if it's $3 to $5 each?
Yeah.
What are you trying to skimp on like $1 condom is sex?
No.
It's like we save $1.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have to use protection, that's what you want to go with.
But they are expensive. You get a box and it's like $45. Wow. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So when I've had to use them, I've used those. I had a girl tell me she used them, and after she says she comes over another time and she says, those don't really work against STDs. I'm like, oh really? I don't work against STDs. And she says, so this time we just don't need to use one. And like after
we already do, we've already been exposed.
I'm like, okay.
Well, she definitely had experience with the lambskins. I'd never heard of lambskin condoms until you mentioned them to me. But I guess they're out there. They're in the world, and they're made by Trojan, so they must be popular.
They have different brands, but I think Trojan, that's the only ones I've found. I don't think they're really popular because I don't understand why when it comes to like having actual sex, people are cheap. Like when people are like, those are too expensive, I'm like, you're having sex.
Right.
Why is $5 a big deal? Like, if you go out and have a glass of wine first, it's going to cost you $9-10. People's relationship to money is always strange to me.
I remember going condom shopping, and what I'd look for first and foremost was thickness. So whatever the box said, if it said the thinnest or like nothing's there, that's what I'd go for. And the lambskins were probably there, but you're right. I'd probably say, whoa, those are heavy duty. Those are twice.
Well, you're not going to know they feel better, and I think the reason they do is their actual skin.
Right.
So it's sort of weird. It's an animal skin, but at the same time, what latex is no weirder.
Yeah.
Sex to me with a condom is just totally different.
Yeah.
It's definitely not as enjoyable.
Yeah, and they probably don't get more awareness or popularity because of the fact that they don't protect against STDs, and that's the number one reason that people use condoms is to protect against STDs. If some semen works its way through, there's always the morning after.
I also think condoms are, for me, you probably would go through this too. The more girls found me hotter as I progressed on my journey, they did not require me to use a condom.
Yeah.
But I have brought up to a couple of them, let's bring Cindy as an example. She told me about this guy she'd been with. She's just like, whatever. It's just like, maybe she didn't really like him. He wasn't hot. It was just whatever. I go, I guarantee you made him wear a condom. She's like, oh yeah. But after the first date, we had sex, and she tells me after, she's like, do you make other people or do you wear condoms when you have sex? And I'm like, did you make me wear one? Of course not.
I remember right out of high school, at the end of the summer, there was this girl. She was definitely on some sort of power trip. Mm-hmm. But she approached me. She began everything. She initiated the whole thing from top to bottom. She was about to head off to college in Oregon. She stopped by my work, talked to me at the register, said, hey, we need to hang out before I leave. Before I get out of California.
Did you know what she wanted at the time, or were you?
Oh, I could definitely sense she wasn't just trying to hang out as friends. We knew each other, but we weren't friends.
But now you would know for sure. You wouldn't even have to sense it. You would know if a girl's just coming up to hang out.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I guess if I have to think back at where I was in that situation, I knew she was onto something, but I could have definitely still fallen into the trap of not engaging in anything.
Okay.
And just
thinking she just wanted to hang out type of thing, sort of not realizing that.
But what ended up happening is that very same day that she came into my work, I was let go early. It was a slow day, so they said, go home. And I hit her up. I said, hey, I'm out. Parents were out of town. She came over that very same night, And we were up in my room, and she really was the aggressor in that situation. Mm-hmm. She definitely initiated everything. I was still super apprehensive.
Was she your age? You haven't told me this story.
We graduated together. Yeah, I'll show you her Instagram later on. If I'm going by what I heard, she actually became a sugar baby, and she
really?
is always
Like a sugar baby, like the type that goes to
like proper
UAE,
sugar baby,
like
where
UAE chic type of
she's
sugar
traveling the world and
Yeah.
getting paid good money for it. At least from what we're gleaning off her Instagram,
Right.
which is like
Well, you can tell a lot from that.
Yeah.
Because people without those resources don't have those kind of pictures.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the screening methods I use for girls when I'm dating online is if they have those kind of pictures, I don't even bother with them.
Yeah,
I mean, I
'cause-
told you about the one, I'll tell you about that 19-year-old that shows up with her sugar daddy's BMW,
uh,
you know.
somebody else's.
Yeah, but tell your
IA.
story and I can always, like,
Yeah. So I was pretty inexperienced at this point, at least with the interpersonal sort of thing. You know, I'd been with girls before on a sexual level, but sex will come to you whether you're looking for it or not, as long as you're open to it. Now, engaging on a personal level with your behavior and your personality, that's a different story. So I was prepared in that sense, but in the realm of initiating or physicality, I was totally inexperienced. So
Do you feel like it was less of an experience for you because you weren't actually in your regular...
no, I think it was more of an experience
Yeah.
because she was into me, but she was also into the fact that she was like considering herself like, hey, I'm a boss
She was liking
bitch.
the dominant
I
role.
get she was definitely liking being dominant. You know, while we were having, I'm
But see, I guarantee you, though, she likes it. But if you had taken charge, she would have liked that too.
well,
you know?
I'm cutting forward here, but after we had sex, while we were having sex, and I started pounding away at her,
Yeah.
and I started taking the lead.
Yeah.
While we were having sex,
Yeah.
she came, and after I made her come,
Yeah.
I noticed her whole mentality change. She was very docile. She was very submissive after she came. I never came throughout the whole ordeal, so I think that got in her head even more.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
the roles definitely changed while we were having sex, and not for the better in terms of her attraction to me. You know, once I took the lead, I feel like the attraction waned.
Like she was looking for sort of a sub type of
Exactly.
person, like a bottom.
Exactly.
Sub. Not bottom, but you know what I mean.
Exactly. She was looking to be the aggressor.
Which that sort of goes into what we were talking about earlier. What we forgot to record. You were talking about leader, like
yeah,
boss
These
type of
girls,
girls.
yeah.
That, and I said, you know, some girls want to lead. It's statistically, it's probably more men, of course. You know, but there's nothing wrong with that if you're playing the role you feel in your core you're at. If you're a leader and you're playing with a leader, it's just going to be fighting. And if you're a follower and be playing with a follower, you're not going to go anywhere. So you need to, you know, if it's a leader girl, the guy needs to be docile, and if it's a leader guy, then the girl needs to. And then you can also like play with that a little bit too.
Yeah.
I with my current longer term one here, I've been able to sort of not in regular dating. I'm just leading, but in a sexual time, like when we're having sex, sometimes I'll just let her take over just to get that experience.
Yeah.
And I used to not be able to do that, so I feel like some growth in some way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm still leading the experience. Like when it comes to sex itself, and I tell guys, I shouldn't say it's a golden rule, because like I said, there could be girls that are leading, and you have to know who you are at your core. But when I'm with a girl, I'm leading that whole sexual experience. I feel like the goodness or the awesomeness of the sexual experience lies with me. Mm-hmm. Like even when she's on top or something like that,
Yeah.
I'm the one directing the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, because thinking back on it, that's probably why this whole situation was so extraordinary. Let alone the fact that it basically fell into my lap. She pursued
Well, that's
me.
rare. That
Right.
really, like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's fear of rejection. Like, I feel like guys handle rejection a lot better because we're used to it. Girls just don't usually approach guys, and girls will say they do, but for the most part, girls aren't approaching guys.
Yeah, and it built up to this. You know, I met her my senior year of high school. I guess
Yeah.
she'd been there all along, but I met her my senior year of high school. We had a class together. And there was a point where, towards the end of the year, her long-term relationship, which she had been in basically all of high school, was coming to an end. And we were hanging out. She was coming over to my place, and
She was just wanting to mess around with some
onto
people. She
something.
wanted to get to the streets. That's what
Yeah.
she wanted to do.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and on this occasion, it might have been the first or second time we hung out. She was coming over to my place. We were going to smoke some pot, and I met her at the entrance to my apartment complex. Her ex-boyfriend walked her to me.
Oh my God.
Her ex-boyfriend walked her to me.
Wait, was he still trying to keep things
He was
together?
after her like a puppy dog, man.
That makes me hurt.
He
to
was
think
after
about.
her.
Really? He walked her to...
About 5 foot away from me.
Oh, it's painful to hear.
He stops her and he's having some sort of whisper conversation, like, please, you know.
Oh my God.
And she's just pulling away from him. She's like, no, I'm going. And she walks off with me towards my apartment. I look back and he's head down. It's a sad thing.
What was he doing there?
He was just devastated that it was ending because she was a hot girl.
So what?
She was
get another hot girl.
But he was we were kids there. We were friggin' 17 years old.
Yeah.
He had like.
I mean, I know what was going on. I'm saying that like I don't know, but I know exactly what's
he had
going on.
a
It's just so sad.
Exactly. He had a tomcat on his hands. You know, the complete package. Hot girl, smart, super sexual, and she was just like moving on. She wanted.
There's so many other people out there, though. That's the thing. You have to know that. You have to know that. That's why I say I said that on Alex's show. I had an interview with Alex Hudak the other day. He has a Instagram, The Hudsman. Mm-hmm. He's a dating coach now, or he's just starting that. And he does a show called Beyond the Basics. And I did Conquering Divorce. And I said, I think the one thing guys need to be able to do. This is why like getting married out of high school is a bad idea, or even just getting it right away is a man needs to date. I'm always a proponent of guys maximizing their value and getting their business rolling and getting their education and making themselves better in other ways. But the one thing I will say is I feel like even at the cost of a little bit of progression in your business, a guy needs to know how to date. So take a year and date and learn how to be around girls and know that you can, if she goes, I can get another one next week. Like with Sydney, if she wants to leave, go right ahead. I get another one, you know. And it sounds harsh, but at the same time, you end up in a situation like that guy if you don't know that, and that's a sad, very weak. She didn't have any respect for him for doing that, for sure. In fact, she thought less of him for doing that, I guarantee. And most girls would, and most guys would as well. Mm-hmm. It's almost like the situation where I was telling you about, like, Sydney comes up to me and she says, I might go to Vegas in September. I'm looking at her. And she's wanting to get a rise out of me is what she's wanting.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, and I told you what the problem with that is. It isn't her going, even if I trusted her. The problem is my reputation. It's my image. If my, who I call a girlfriend goes to Vegas on a girls trip, what do I look like? I can't have that.
Yeah.
It isn't about her and trust. And she knows that instinctually. She knows that if she, in her mind, can't, as a primary consideration, I shouldn't have to say what will it make him look like by me doing that, then it's not the right person.
Yeah. From what I'm gathering is, she's constantly asking you, are you happy? Are you still into me? Do you like me?
Yeah.
From what I'm gathering is she'll say that kind of stuff to you to get some sort of response. Yeah. It's kind of like people who apparently cut themselves to show themselves that they feel something.
Yeah.
So she'll push you in a negative direction to get a response from you to show her, oh, he cares.
Yeah, she wants me to say, no, you're not going. Right. But I won't do that. All I'll say is a person that I was seriously considering to be in a relationship with wouldn't do that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And she knows it's not fair because I'm going to go to Vegas. It's not a fairness. It's that's the way it is if you don't like it. Wow. But the thing is, I can press that because I can replace that sexual need in a week.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying is if you're worried about where your next meal's coming from, just like you said this guy was, she's hot, she's sexual, and now he's walking her to another guy's house. He would never be in that situation if you knew you could replace that.
Right.
Like a guy especially, this is one thing that is different about girls and guys. Guys need to know they can get their sexual needs fulfilled.
Absolutely.
And if they don't, they'll make bad decisions.
Yeah.
And girls can always get that because they can just go on Tinder and get a date, right?
Exactly. And this was a good-looking kid. He was an athlete. He could have had plenty of girls, but he didn't have that awareness.
He didn't have enough experience. When did he start dating her? Was it like a couple of years earlier?
You know, we were 17 at this point. I'm going to guess he started dating her when he was 14, 15.
There you go. He's with her the whole time.
Yeah.
He didn't realize he could.
So his whole
Yeah.
view of romance and relationships and sex was tied into this.
I wonder if she was messing around with other guys anyway.
Who knows? So to wrap up this story, she's heading off to college. This was August 2016, and she makes a point to show up to my work, tells me hit her up. I do that very same day. She comes over to my place, right? And I'm still hesitant, now we're in my room, sitting together, right side by side, listening to some Led Zeppelin. And I'm unsure, you know, I still have that mindset going, well, maybe she's just hanging out. Maybe she's just being friendly. Maybe she's doing this. And I'm super apprehensive to making a move until she takes the reins and goes, you know, I always had a crush on you.
Yeah.
At that moment, looking back on it, I wish it would have happened sooner, but it happened when it happened. And as soon as I heard that, what the hell did I do?
Yeah.
Turned right to her, grabbed her, made out with her, hardcore. Because that was the okay, that was the go ahead that I needed.
But she had already given you. Now you know she had already given you the
She'd
okay.
given me the
I mean,
okay.
I'm not saying you should just not still be seductive and do
Yeah.
the right things.
But-
You shouldn't just grab
But
her.
it's obvious
grab
now
her, you know.
that she'd given me that okay.
Yeah.
A while
she
back.
had to actually clarify it for you.
She had to basically
this
spell
is
it
the
out
same
for
as
me.
your friend that was out with a girl like 2 a.m. in his car and he doesn't do
I
anything.
know.
And I'm like, if a girl's with you at 2 a.m. in your car, like, I'm not saying like don't read the signals and not still try to be romantic
I know.
but she's there. She's not opposed to it. Otherwise, she wouldn't be there.
I know, and if it doesn't click sooner rather than later, she's gonna just be over it and like move on.
That's why like I sexualize all my dates so fast. And when I say sexualize, I mean, you know, I hug them. I've already got my hand like up on the small of their back and usually touch their ass a little bit. And I'm holding their hand and it's just a very like I'm very physically escalating the whole time. I'm there. I'm on a date.
Right.
What else am I there for?
Yeah.
I'm not there to watch football.
No, exactly. You got the go ahead right there from the beginning, based on the context of the
Yeah. And
meetup.
if she's hesitant, you know, if I make the wrong move, then I just back off.
Right.
It's not but she's still there,
Yeah.
expecting me to do the right thing to make her interested.
Yeah.
So she's already given you an okay by just showing up.
Exactly.
Because
She's into you.
Like she's
Good
not
enough.
gonna, unless it's like a friend zone guy.
Yeah.
That's a different story. But
Yeah.
if it's just a date, she's already said in some way, "I like you." Otherwise, she wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it was all there, you know. You have these experiences and you learn, you know, and this was definitely an eye-opening situation. You get a sort of a peek. She was sort of an example on the far end of the spectrum, but you kind of get a view behind the curtain to how these girls are feeling. You know, they have the same attractions that we do. She wore them more on her sleeve than most, but it allowed me to sort of have a wider view of the opposite gender and what I need to do to
Yeah, like you realize they're more sexual than what you've been told.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and
It's weird living in that world, though, isn't it? Like, you didn't have the experience I did, where I lived in the other world for so long, and now I'm in this new world that, let's say, 10-15% of guys live in, where I see this sexuality when I'm just like dealing with people in the streets. I see all these things happening that other people don't even catch, and these guys a lot of times are just walking around blind, not even realizing. A lot of times these girls they want to, and they expect the guy to do the right thing to make them interested, and the guys never do, or the guy just thinks that she wants necessarily a boyfriend, which he might not.
Mm-hmm.
Should we do the introduction since we didn't do that yet? We got a little out of order.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad we mixed it up a little bit, but here we are. I'm Fernando. I met our buddy here, Ray, about 3-4 years ago. Originally hired by his ex-wife to work for
2018. Is that what
it was?
decided?
It was late. It was late. Yeah, it was 3 years ago, almost late 2018.
Yeah.
Hired to do some work on their property. It was an opportune time because it wasn't much long after that they split up, moved her out of the house.
2019 January.
It was January 2019, so it was about 2-3 months at most that I was there witnessing the tail end of a 18-year-long relationship. And
Did I do that? Remember how we would work together, like because I just wanted to get out of the house, and you even said like when you first saw me, you're like I was sort of had my head hung low.
Yeah, when I
just wanna
first
be out of here.
laid eyes on him, a picture that says 1,000 words or whatever the hell they say, and
Yeah.
just seeing him, I got an air of sort of defeat, worn out and over it, I learned later on that he'd done a lot of the groundwork to sort of propel himself into what I was to witness over the coming months after the
Yeah.
split, but knowing now what I do, it was obvious that what I saw was him being over the relationship. He was ready to get out.
Did you see that? You remember the fence up there?
Yeah, there was a fence
I
around
built
the
that
property.
fence to get away.
Yeah.
I would do physical labor to get away.
There was a huge fence around the property that he laid down with his bare hands to just get out of the house and be away
a
from
wooden
her.
fence.
But you mentioned that the catch-22 was that you do this to get away from her, and then she'd be turned on.
Because I knew how to build stuff. Yeah.
She'd be turned on seeing you build something, and then you'd get back in there, and you'd be right back in the what do they call it? The fucking teeth of the animal, the mouth of the beast, or whatever.
Well,
It's like-
and toward the end, we actually had a lot more sex, me and her. I didn't really like her, so it wasn't. I wouldn't say it's good, but it did. I will give her this. The sex we had taught me a lot about sex because she got involved in some sexual communities, and I don't mean she was having sex. I just meant she's learning about different things that I wasn't aware of, like orgasmic meditation, and she was in with this Jaya person down in LA who does this sexual blueprinting stuff. So I got to learn about kink and all these things, and we would play with all these things. So I learned a lot before I got out. I knew how to have good sex before I wouldn't say in my 20s I knew how to have sex good. But by the time I left, or Mandy and me split up, I knew how to have sex good. So that was one thing that helped me out a lot in my dating.
yeah.
And I was thinking about, remember, you would work in the yard some, but then I would say, hey, if you'll would hire you to drive me when I would do psychedelics so I didn't have to drive.
Yeah.
But then we just started hanging out regularly.
Yeah, we just started hanging out and we got to know each other real well.
I forgot. I always forget about that.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I did that, but
It was a couple times, and that's how we bonded early on through
like-
mushrooms, But once she took off, it was a period of sort of rejuvenation for you.
Yeah.
For about 6 months, you worked on yourselves from the inside out,
yeah.
and you laid the groundwork internally for what
Yeah,
would-
from January to June, I didn't do anything for dating. I just worked. Actually, just sat around a lot, just trying to get a breath. I'd been in this like marriage that was toxic for a long time, always fighting. So all of a sudden, now I have this quiet, no TV. She used to always have like the news on. I freaking can't stand the news. I don't even. The people at work will say something to me. They'll say, "Hey, did you what about this?" And they'll go, "Oh, never mind. You don't watch the news." I have no clue what's going on in the world half the time. Not the news that they watch. That doesn't not relevant to me.
Yeah,
So there was no TV. It was just quiet. It
Yeah.
was awesome.
yeah.
And then July, I started dating. July 4th, I went to a party. These young girls liked me. I realized, these girls like me. I should start dating. I didn't know how to close it that night. I had like this girl, maybe 20, in her early 20s, but I had no clue how to make it move along. And then you had that party 2 weeks later. I had that girl come over to the house, Marie Jose.
Yes, sir.
And that was the first time in 18 and a half years I'd been with a new girl.
Yeah.
For date right to that. My first date was actually, no, it wasn't my first date because I went out with that girl Perla
Right.
the week prior, and then I ended up sleeping with her later. But
Yeah.
it was like second date straight to the house.
Yeah. She
Like,
came right over.
She came right over. We ended up. You had a party going on upstairs. I was down with her stairs with her,
Yeah.
and then. The next day, I met another girl, Sherry. That was her name.
Yeah.
And she met me in Los Gatos, and we drove out to the mountains, did a walk, came back to the house, had sex.
It was almost like once you crossed that hurdle,
It's just boom, boom. Yeah.
it was you were prepared.
Yeah.
You were internally sound.
Yeah.
But it's just that big threshold of finally
Yeah.
making that leap.
Yeah,
forward.
it's a little nerve wracking, right?
Right. I bet. I can imagine.
I mean, I would say in my 20s, And girls like me, but I didn't really know it. I was okay. I wasn't bad, but I wasn't like who I am now. I wouldn't say I was the hot guy. Girls just wanted to. I wasn't the guy that I get now, and it's still mind-boggling to me to be like with a girl that's 22 in bed, and she look up at me and say, "Oh, you're so hot," and I'm like thinking, "That's so weird. I'm 48. Are you kidding me?" But it just happens all the time. So okay. I told you about the girl Mariella. She was 19. The other day I was saying that was sort of my first introduction to young girls, like really changing my mindset a lot. I went to Santa Cruz, picked her up, and she's in my car. She's 19. And she's like staring at me. I looked at her. She's like, "You're so out of my league." And I'm thinking, the hell? What do you mean?
That's the other side of the equation there. You know, we're so fixed into our own view, thinking that, oh, this hot, nubile chick, you know, she's the fucking prize over, you know, this.
And then she's in the car with me telling me that.
Because you see what she sees. She sees a successful guy.
Yeah.
Taking her around. Yeah. He's made it. He hasn't made. And who am I?
And she just wanted to come back to my place and have sex. She didn't even want to go on a date or anything. I just picked her up. I was like, "We're going to go back to my place." She said, "Cool." We got back. It actually, I was going to like hang out with her a bit, and I could tell she just wanted to have sex. In fact, when we were having sex, we were doing it, and she looks up at me and she says, "Wow, you really know what you're doing." And I go, "Yeah, this is what it's like to screw a man."
Yeah. A man doesn't.
I use other words.
Yeah.
So, that's just funny.
Who'd you see before you started fucking? I know you learned a lot from your ex-wife and the things she was being taught through her sex education classes or sex meditation or whatever it was. But you were learning, what you got from her was sort of like a female view into sexuality. Where'd you learn the masculine part of sex after your marriage?
I think that just came with having the frame of being the lead. I'd say that I stopped like asking. I stopped viewing sex as a reward for me. I viewed it as a reward for them, which is strange to most people because you know how most people will say something like, "Oh, did you get lucky?" It's usually a guy talking about a girl. And my view, my frame is she's lucky. Like, she's lucky that I'm having sex with her because she hasn't had sex like this, or she hasn't had a lot of sex like this, which they tell me that too. So I've got girls building that, plus I'm doing it at the same time. And I realize they're having a lot of bad sex with a lot of guys that are just being mealy and weaselly about the whole thing and trying to sort of lie their way in there. I'd have so many, be on a date, and a lot of my dates are just straight to the house now, but a girl would say, "Oh, you just want to have sex?" And my response was, "Of course I want to have sex." This is a man and woman thing. And I would usually follow it with like, "I want to have fun too. I want to do some more than that." And I would also usually caveat it with, "We don't have to have sex. It's not like an expectation or anything." But yeah, of course I want to.
You know, that just struck me. It's the same situation with your current long-term relationship where she'll say something to sort of get the response from you that reinforces what she desires, which is that connection, you know, that security that she is still valuable to you.
Yeah.
So when a girl like that who wants to fuck you is just saying, "You just want sex," well, she does too, but she's saying that to get a response from you that says, "Well, it's more than just the sex. I don't want."
Well, I think it's also a little bit of a test to see if I'm actually who I say I am. Because, you know, a lot of guys in that situation would be like, "Oh, no, I don't know what you're talking about." And that is way outside of who I'm acting like on a date. Because on the date, I'm very, like, dominant and take charge. So if I backed off and said that, it would be really weird. And there's no way she would at that point. Because that's that congruency I was talking about. Most important thing about for any person is just be congruent. Be who you are by yourself. Be who you are. Always be the same person regardless of the situation. Because it feels weird when a person isn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even Sydney tested me on, I told her I want a yellow Ferrari, right? And she's like, "Oh, why do you want a yellow? That just says you want attention." And I said to her, "Yeah, I definitely want it. I want attention. Yeah, if I can afford a Ferrari, yeah, look at me when I show up, bitches." And it was a test. What if I had actually said something like, "Oh, you're right. I should just get a blue one or some shit." So yeah, it's just it's just a frame thing.
Exactly.
But as far as the sex goes, I think it just came with the nature of how I treated dates, which is I just leave the date. If the person doesn't like it, they can leave.
Yeah.
If they don't want to be, if they don't, it's my date. I run the date. If you don't want to be part of it, you can go. I'll go into, for instance, a restaurant. Not a restaurant. I never go to restaurants. If I'll go into a place like a bar for a drink, and if there's an interview like this back and forth that I can't be catty corner to her because I do a lot of physical escalation, I won't stay, or I'll get a new seat, and I'll say to the server or the hostess, I'll say, "Can we get another seat over there?" If the girl ever asks, I'll say, "Because I can't touch you if I'm across from you." I'll be totally honest about the thing. Mm. And I've left restaurants that didn't have seating that I liked. And I'll say, "I don't like this. Let's go over here."
Yeah.
If the person fought me on it, I'd be like, "Well, I'm going over here. You can come if you want." I wouldn't be a dick. I'd just be, "I'm not staying here."
Yeah.
So I think that just comes with the being the dominant one in the bedroom just comes with that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. So what went down from June of 2019 to, let's say, June of 2020?
Well, July is when I dated. I'll tell you what went down, a lot of dating.
Yeah.
I started dating in July. I think I had a goal, which seems like a silly goal now, of like sleeping with 2 new girls a month for a year, and that goal got well surpassed really quickly.
You shattered those.
I was, I kept that pretty consistent the first part, like a couple of girls, 2 or 3 girls a month I would go out with. I didn't want just one night stands. I wanted to date the same people if I liked them. And then in December, I ended up sleeping with like 7 girls in 10 days. It just was like crazy in the beginning of December, and like January was the same. I think I slowed down when I was dating Harsh, Allison, and Gabby in like February. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then I still dated, but I ended up, I don't know if I should say it on the stream, but I had given up on counting. But at some level, when Harsh was like, "I don't want to see you anymore," I started dating, and I realized, oh my God, if I really push this, I can sleep with 50 girls in 12 months. And I had the date that I had to do this, and I was at 49, and there were 3 days left in the 12-month cycle, or 4 days left, and I had a date cancel, date cancel, date cancel, date cancel. I ended up sleeping with somebody I never would have probably slept with. And I look back, and I'm like, I shouldn't have done that.
But you hit it, man. 50 girls
I did hit
in
50,
a year.
yeah. But
it wasn't quite.
It was just like I got flake, canceled, flake. It's just like one after the other.
But you were trying to make it happen, and you did, and
Well, I wasn't at first, and then I got like 3 or 4 weeks out, and I said, "Wow, I could really do this." And then I just accelerated. But then I got tired, and I moved here to my new place, and I just started dating more.
Yeah.
Not as heavy.
Right. Sure. Yeah. And that's where we are now. It's June of 21 now, 2 years from when you first started dating again.
Yeah.
And you're in a long-term relationship. It's been almost a year in that one now, about 10 months now.
Yeah.
And we're getting things off the ground and running.
She does not like the idea that I'm going to have to date for this channel.
Yeah.
But, it's just...
But it's like we'd exhaust
I told her, though, like, this is what I'm good at it, right? I'm good at dating. I can teach guys to be good at it, because it is a social skill. Dating is a social skill.
Yeah.
And it takes, like any skill, it takes practice. And I can help guys, or help girls even, out with this stuff. So I'm not going to throw away the thing that I'm good at just because somebody has, an issue with it. So
exactly. And that's the way we wanted to start this show. You've learned a lot and you've accomplished a lot, and a whole worldview has changed and developed. And it's a lot of stuff that I've benefited from learning, which I would have taken me years to realize had not been for just witnessing what you were going through.
You also probably couldn't believe it.
Exactly.
Because the world doesn't tell us the things that I'm doing work, right? They tell us the things I'm doing don't work.
Yeah.
And it's not true at all.
Yeah.
I've had the hardest boss babes just, I don't want to use the word crack, but I have been in the other room and just watch them giggle. Yeah. And I realize, like, okay, you just got to care about people and be honest about what you're saying and mean it when you say stuff, and be honest about what you want, and then it's all fine.
Yeah, exactly. You've had the staunchest of feminists in here, and you've been able to drill past that hard shell to reach the core, which is, common, which is, constant between all these different girls. And, it's a lot of useful information. And
I was talking to one girl, and she tells me, and this is a big reason I wanted to get it out there too, like a book and stuff, is she's like, wow, you can actually say things in ways that aren't negative and toxic. Because there's a lot of communities that say stuff in ways that seem to put the other people down. Guys get frustrated with girls because they feel like they're holding that pussy hostage, right? But they aren't. They just aren't giving it to you because you aren't hot enough. So it's just make yourself hotter and you'll be fine. And I mean, I've got different ways of saying that, but that's the core of it. So, but that's what this all boils down to. There's a lot of negative ways to say that, or a way that guys would treat as negative, and there's a positive way to say it too. So that's what I'm hoping to be able to do.
Absolutely, make it a little bit more palatable. There's a lot of extremes out there with the red pill podcasts,
I'm trying to stay away from that.
Yeah, we're trying to give you information on the way things are, not the way we think things should be, or the way we want to make things appear to be. This is just the fact. This is what we've seen, what you've seen, what you've observed, what you've experienced, and
I shouldn't say it that way. I'm not trying to stay away from that group. I'm just trying not to
confine yourself to.
Not to confine myself to say, like, there's some stuff that are taught in there that are good, but then there's a lot of toxicity too that you have to get past. So it's better to be able to to be able to understand people and not treat them poorly.
Exactly, and we want to pass on some nuggets, some lessons that hopefully anybody listening could gain experience.
What's our time at?
I think we're closing in on 40 minutes, so we'll
should we do the girl box?
Yeah, we're gonna have a segment in just a few minutes here where we give you direct examples of dates that Ray here has gone on. He's gonna. We have some names in a box he'll take a draw from, and it's a picture of a girl over the last year.
A couple of years,
that you've gone on a date with, and it might have been a successful thing where you actually went to bed with her, or it might have been a situation where she walked away and she left, And either way, there's a lesson to be learned.
I think I want to, this is another reason I want to date too, so I can have more fresh examples, because it's going to be harder, because they're a little bit dated, to go through.
Yeah. And things are changing, especially now with COVID. Girls are going to. I'm expecting girls out there to be a little bit looser this summer.
Yeah.
And it won't be the same paradigm you'll find, say, a year from now.
At the same time, it isn't like they weren't out messing around. I think people have this idea that, like, sex is going to change because COVID's ending and these girls are all pent up. I'm like, they haven't been pent up because they've been with me.
I have a feeling they're going to wear it a little bit more on their sleeve now, where they're kind of just saying, hey, we're owning it, and it'll be less sort of a thing that it's kind of a little bit below the surface,
Yeah.
But before we get to that segment, I just want to ask you, what's something that took a while for you to sort of get down from when you first started going on dates till, let's say, either now or once you had a few under your belt?
It could be, well, let's say this. One is, I don't get frustrated when a girl doesn't show, because I set my life up in a way to where it doesn't impact it very, very much. And I keep in mind, it doesn't make me feel bad if a girl flakes, because I realize she has so many options. She doesn't know me. It's different when she knows you and flakes. That's a different story. But let's say, like, on a first date, some girl flakes, whatever. You're just another guy in her box of dicks, Tinder box of dicks, or Bumble box of dicks, or Hinge. So, but what I started doing is, like, countering the game, and now I would stack dates. I'd have 3 dates at the same time, and then comes time for the date, I'd take the one that was most likely to show, and that would be the date.
Yeah.
So I never would lose an evening. And some people would be like, oh, that's sort of a dick move. And I'm like, you know what? People have been doing it. It's not I'm not doing it to be vindictive. I'm doing it to maximize my time because people are so disrespectful of time. It's just, they forced me into the position of doing it.
Yeah. And you must have found that once you didn't let this no showing or cancellations get under your skin, you must have seen some sort of change in the way that you presented yourself to these girls, and you were sort of you weren't thrown off.
Sort of unfazed by it.
Yeah.
Another thing is I moved out to a logistical location that was perfect for dates. So, 2 minutes away, if she doesn't show up, I'm still at home. I can do some work.
Exactly. You don't lose that. It made it a lot easier. Were you good from the beginning when you first went out and started seeing girls with physical escalation? And
that's why I was going to say physical escalation. I was always. I don't know why I've been. I think because I'm not apologetic about it. The physical escalation, and I make it intentional. Here's what I'm doing, and it's not like slammy or sleazy. It's direct, very direct. Mm-hmm. I'm very direct with my intentions. So I'd say I got better at physical escalation. I fine-tuned it. I got better at reading body language signals for sure. Mm. I got John's course. He had this body language mastery, and the things I see now, you can't unsee them once you know these things exist.
Yeah.
One thing I did that was always he called it seductive feeding. I would always have like strawberries or some kind of fruit. And what I would do is at some point I'd say, you want some fruit? And then I would feed her. And if she took it, that's a good thing. And if she didn't take it, well, then I got work to do. Yeah. And I think that also sort of helps with the seduction a little bit when you do that. It's like, oh, I let him feed me, type of thing.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that really helped out a lot.
What do we got here? And one more question for you before we get to that last segment.
Yeah. That'll work.
So with the physical escalation, when you wound up in a situation where you didn't get the response that one would hope for, how did you get around to sort of picking up from where that put you at?
You can't take it personally. That's it, and I never really did. But if you take it personally, it looks like butt hurt, and then you just have to. I'm trying to think of how I would go with it, but it's just natural at this point. I was walking out with a girl who I met in the building at some point, and I told her, okay, well, let's get together sometime. And I don't usually date people in the building, but this just happened to happen. And she's like, well, I'll come out with you, because I was going to walk the dog. And I tried to take her hand, but it was an awkward situation. And it wasn't natural. And she sort of pulled back, and I was like, oh, okay, well, it's a little awkward. She's like, no, it's okay. It's just I did this and blah, 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 blah. I think acknowledging that it was awkward is a good way to deal with it.
Yeah.
Just calling it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you both feel it, and it's laid out on the table, and it shows that it doesn't bother you the way it would most guys.
And you can use that technique for not just dating, for anything. Calling out the weirdness or why things are awkward or weird actually helps out a lot in a lot of situations. Because you had a argument with somebody, and then you finally just say what it is, and you're both good with it at that point, because it just...
Yeah, you make things more genuine, and you get to the root of the thing rather than beating around the bush, So with that being said, let's get around to it. We got a magic box here.
If they have, what would we say? If they have left something at the house, I'll go get it out of what I used to call the hoe lost and found.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
My ex tried to use that on me in court.
I know.
And I'm like, well, they call themselves hoes. It's okay.
Yeah, they're owning it. Everybody's embracing it.
Everybody's owning it. Daddy and hoe.
Yeah, you love women,
Yeah.
So we got the magic box here.
All right, let's see what we got. We folded what?
I got some names in there.
All right. I'm curious on
so why don't you go ahead and I'll shuffle it around a little bit.
All right.
Go ahead and draw one.
Here. Who do we have? Oh, Zoe.
Zoe, tell us about her.
Zoe. she had a voice that just was insanely grating. I got a couple of stories about her. So I wish I could show it. Maybe we can cut it in later.
Yeah.
So I met her down in Santa Cruz. Ended up coming back to my house the first day. I ended up having a hard time like getting aroused with her. Her voice, the way she's just mousy in her voice. I had like an issue the first time. She ended up coming back and we messed around. And then she came back a couple of times. We messed around. She was 22. The story I want to tell though is we're sitting on the couch, 22 or 23. She's sitting on the couch and she was a little breeder. She was like not fat, just thicker and small. I called her my little breeder. Big, nice set. And so she's showing me her Instagram, and we get to this one picture of her and this guy on their prom date. And she's like, that's who I went to the prom with. And I was like, oh, really? She was like, I gave my first blowjob that night. And I go, to him? She says, no. And I said, really? And she goes, yeah, I went to an after party and he went home. I'm like, man, that, like, can you imagine though? That's like, got to be hard on the guy. And
that's what goes on.
It leads me to like this other girl I was seeing who I was talking to her, and I'll talk to the girls about this stuff and be non-judgmental. So they tell me all kinds of stuff. And this other girl was telling me, we were laying in bed, and she tells me she used to go to the prom with this guy. She went like 4 times with him and would sleep with all his friends and never slept with him. And she said the first time they went to the prom, she was dating a guy that was like 25 when she was 16 or 17. And she went to the prom with him and then went and saw the other guy later. And I'm like, God, that guy is just, it's just hard to hear.
I know. Especially, you know, like we said in that story earlier, these guys at that age lay all their marbles with that girl.
All the eggs in one basket, right?
But it seems like they're at an advanced stage because she wasn't doing that. That's for sure. You know, she had her own thing going on, and this was her going to the prom with this dude was like a whole secondary thing that she had no sort of deep consideration for.
Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know what the. Well, first of all, with this girl real quick. She was seeing me. She's like 20, like I said, 21, 22, I don't remember. And she was also seeing this guy that was a doctor she was trying to have a relationship with. And I'm like thinking to myself, like this guy has no clue. Like she's like just seeing daddy. Yeah. Like just having sex with daddy. She ended up, I don't know what happened. We didn't see each other after like 3 or 4 times, but this guy has no idea what's going on.
What she was out doing.
And I think that comparable to the prom thing, where the girl goes to the prom with this guy and then goes and sleeps with this other guy. And you know this happens in dating world too, where a girl will go out with a guy and then she'll go sleep with another guy. I think there's a comparable for the guy's perspective, and it isn't the same. And it's a girl comes and makes you dinner, and you kick her out and bring another girl over to eat the dinner. That would be what I would consider as the comparable asshole move to that.
Yeah.
Whatever. It is just what it is. I just want to be the second guy. That's
all.
What did I said? I decided there's 2 types of guys: the guys that get cheated on, and guys that get cheated with. I'll be the guy that gets cheated with,
right?
So.
She was further on down the line, right? At this point, you had plenty of girls under your belt.
Yeah, for sure. This was Zoe was like.
More recent, wasn't she?
No, she was. No, she was like.
Was she here or at the house?
She was at their house. She was like May or June of that year.
Any artifacts from her?
No, I don't have any artifacts. That's a good way to put them. No, I don't think she left me any artifacts.
She didn't leave anything behind. She made sure to take it all with her.
No.
But there was another girl. This is a young little.
Oh, she told me. She told her friend after the first time. She said, "Yeah, he gave me the perfect pounding."
And that's what it was, you know. It's just goes to show you that's not what's going around in her demographic. You know, the guys her age aren't delivering the goods.
And that's what I get told a lot.
Yeah.
It's just not. They're not doing it good.
Yeah.
I think though that comes down to it's not just taking the lead though. It's also when I have sex with somebody, it's actually a team thing with me. It's not like I'm just trying to like have sex and come. I'm trying to actually enjoy the time together.
Yeah.
So that makes it different, I think.
Yeah, they're probably guys her age are probably so focused on like that's what I want to reach.
Get it in and be done. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that changes it too.
Yeah, that's probably what we should talk about next episode. More of the sex element of these
Yeah.
relationships and
Yeah.
what you bring to it. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a good episode.
yeah, I hope you guys gained something from this. We'll definitely smoothen out the kinks and get back to you guys with some more.
Did we remember to record this time?
This was on it. It's on tape. It's
Awesome.
going out.
Okay, cool.
All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening.